But overall, Skyrim is what I would call an RPG without a soul. It's like an undead, which you have to power through your own will, summoning something from your own imagination to make it work. And it can work, but for me, that time was past. Ooh, now it crashes in on load. Yeah, it after 60 hours of doing that, just got a little old. And I had something, yeah, I wanted to share, yeah, because I think, yeah, an RPG without a soul. That's how you could characterize Skyrim, because role playing is left entirely out of the design process. They just say people will role play what they want. They will make it up, and we don't have to worry about it. Since every possible role play, well, it won't even load now. Uh, since every possible role play will just be will just be something they can accommodate in the overall generic storylines. So let me read you some things I encountered while I was trying to comprehend how Skyrim was an RPG. And let me read from a Gama Sutra opinion piece by whom is this? I have no idea. Leigh Alexander. Let me read. Let me read from that. With all the talk about open world, mayhem, and power fantasy, it is easy to forget how confining the series now feels. All that endless vista, and you with your eyes too often glued to the minimap, orbiting missions and objectives that dot the map like bites to a scratch. You have to shoot. For a game defined by its attitude to freedom and openness, it gives very little liberty to escape its structure. You can go for a walk or do many other things, but you are only delaying the inevitable. To make progress, you eventually submit to going to a place. And when you get there and pull up and you're in it, only after a long pause do you realize nothing begins until your character touches precisely the indicator in the middle of the place. I feel for the characters in this game, they are living lives on rails and they can't seem to get out nor reconcile how to be happy and secure given the directions they've chosen. You go for miles and miles throughout neighborhoods where I've been. Uh, what? I've walked for like feels forever, taking the wrong turn and emerging in places another places. Let me show because I've the part relevant part is not close. But basically, as you can see, this sums up very well my feelings about the 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 lack of yeah spirit that animates the game, or you as a role player supposedly. So they say instead we have another installment. It is so big and so beautiful, and it's fundamentally just the same. It's good. I like it. It's fun to mess around in. It's like an SUV through a glass storefront, declaring that you cannot ignore video games. No one has ever seen a game world this size, this lifelike. If you squint a little, it looks almost completely real, creepy real. It approximately absurd these fantasies futurists have always had about video games. It's like what a movie about the future thinks video games are. Can you do this? Yes. Can you do this? Yes, yes, yes. Sometimes it's too smart for video games and too cool. The impeccably curated music selections, or the way the games like behave, warm, slow halos flickering across the landscape. It understands skull hunting, power, hunger. And it's ruthlessly research that you have to be dazzled, as if the presence of a mothership of mind much more observant, much more well traveled, possessed of much more social wisdom than you, some chump holding the controller. And still so confined, so trapped, so tragic, a shame. And let me read you from another one. This time from This Cage is Worms. There have been some great moments, but mostly it has been a great morass of going around and doing very predictable, dare I say, uh, there are, say, Skyrim like missions. Most have lacked excitement. Go here, the game says, and kill this guy. Or even worse, go here and do a fine grained and intensive yet utterly unexciting task while towing or duck working. This isn't how I want to spending my simulation time. Let me put the next relevant relevant part. I've When I fell in love with the idea that anything is possible, I also became deeply attached to the object that gave me that anything. I didn't want to give up the world, the possibilities. More importantly, I didn't want to give up the chance that we could get more but better in the future. And there you go. People really complain about things. And these people that work or do this for a living can sum it up better than I. But what can you know? They are not my cup of tea in many ways. And here we have. I recently returned to the game. It isn't funny, it isn't engaging, it is boring and a chore to play. More importantly, it always was. In the case of Skyrim, the world that is given to a player is intended to be the largest possible world. Not only is this apparent in the physical location, as shown very clearly in the map size fetish around the game, but also ideologically. The game very clearly intends to allow as many people as possible to be part of the experience, and nothing gets it better than the humor of the game. It, it is designed to be above all politics, the kind of we make fun of everyone that gives even the most virulent statements a way of escaping criticism. The sundry cast of characters the player meets in the game works similarly. I said a few words ago that the game very clearly intends to allow as many people as possible to be part of the experience, and I want to follow up with the game clearly fails at doing so. Their attempt to speak from the position of the god eye view is guaranteed that you're admired in it, which is something that can be said or not. But since they make the thing, but what can you do? They made the lore. And that's it. And that's it. And what can I say in conclusion? They are not talking about Skyrim, as you can see from the last one, because it doesn't make any sense. Skyrim does accomplish that last part. They give such a blank slate character that anyone can make up what they want. But what about the rest? They are talking about GTA 5 in particular. And that's the problem with Skyrim and any open world game. They share the same flaws because they are open world. They cannot give characters, they cannot give a very compelling reason to do shit, and everything seems very shallow. And that's the truth. Eventually, the gameplay just cannot carry the game. And since the storylines are weak as well, then you have to turn either to your imagination in the case of Skyrim or to nothing in the case of GTA. If you don't like the storylines and the gameplay is getting old, you are fucked. In Skyrim, you're not, because you can make up everything. You can start metagaming and making shit up. But that's not role playing. That's not role playing. Because the game doesn't give a shit. You can say in GTA the same thing. You can, my character is bad because uh, his mother abused him, and later on he had a very traumatic experience in the military and he was scarred for life. And does the game care? No, it does not care whatever you have in your mind. And neither does Skyrim. And that's the flow of an open world game. And that's why I'm very happy that both BioWare and CD Projekt have said very forcefully they're trying to avoid the pitfalls of games like this that that present a very impressive picture at best, but the more you go through it, the more you experience it as the game is and not as a escape for killing some hours or as some way to power your fantasies of some sort of another. Uh, in GTA, it could be killing people, robbing people, raping people, whatever, torturing people. Uh, and here it can be becoming a hunter, becoming a fisherman, becoming whatever you want to think it's the goal for your character. It does not matter for the game. The choices are limited and they are not consequential as far as I could see. But I will watch Lusarius's playthrough, and I think he he was a very brave man for doing what he did, for playing this for 200 hours. The last time around, he played it 3 times, 200 hours without dying, and he tried to inject the I won't say the emotionally driven storyline that the game lacks, but he tried to inject the RPG or the role playing the game lacks, and he was convinced by the end that he had failed. And I'm pretty sure it's just because Bethesda does not care about crafting a storyline that could limit in any way, or a world, not a storyline, a world that can limit in any way the experience of the player. So you can play the game without advancing the plot, and nothing will happen as was with the case with me. No dragon. I'm the Encia dragon. Past the first one. Why? Because I decided not to go to some place that triggers dragons. And that's how the game is. It's so segmented. It's so uh, divided or compartmentalized in order to ensure that you have the most freedom possible, that it just doesn't care what you do because it can't. If it cared, then you would have uh, something like BioWare's tiers of planets or areas, things like that, and that would destroy the freedom as envisioned by Bethesda. And the role playing, the meta gaming, meta role playing that they inject in their games. And I certainly don't know how I was able to finish Fallout New Vegas. I was getting at the very end a little bit desperate as well. But Skyrim, it was just, I would say, a worse game than New Vegas, and hopefully one of these days, uh, Obsidian also takes over the mantle here. But until then, I don't think I'll be playing this anymore. I'm going to uninstall it and maybe burn the DVDs. And hopefully Bethesda learns their lesson, but I don't think so because they are very successful. And it is a great game for what it is. It's just not a. It's a very, very, very good adventure game, but it's not a good RPG. It is the. I would say it's the best adventure game with RPG mechanics there is. It's not an RPG. It's not an RPG in the way envisioned originally by by pen and paper advocates. Why? Because the game master Bethesda doesn't care what you do. They don't care. They don't care what you do, what you say, what you think. They just want to offer you a dungeon that's huge and the option to do storyline missions if you want or not do them if you don't want. And that's a very simplistic approach that certainly doesn't encapsulate the experiences I had playing pen and paper RPGs or what I think is role playing, which is basically acting and getting other players, or in the case uh, of PC games, NPCs, and the game master, that is the developer, to react to what you are presenting to them as your character, as your take on the world. And also limited, the Mass Effect series, the Dragon Age series, and the Witcher series certainly do that. Certainly do that. And Skyrim doesn't. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope I'll see you in the next playthrough, which will be of another game that is not an RPG, whatever they want to say. Death Island. Until then, have a good day. Bye.